The most dangerous thing in episode 2 of Lanterns is not the Manhunter. Somewhere in the middle of this episode, John Stewart builds a little green bird. Now, it's easy to laugh at. The bubble wrap was easy to laugh at too, except this bird doesn't pop. It stays. It stays alive while John isn't even wearing the ring. Hal has carried the ring for 40 years, and he has never done that. He looks at the bird and calls it advanced. And John looks at the most extraordinary thing this show has put on screen, says is just a bird, and turns it to dust. Then the episode ends with an alien in a prison cell being asked about manhunters, and instead of answering, he asks a question of his own. He wants Hal to tell him about John Stewart. Lanterns is playing a card game with you. Episode 2 is the hand where I finally watched the dealer's fingers move. What's up, my know-it-alls? Okay, yes, the ring is still on. Week 3 at this point, pretty much part of the show. You know I don't do recaps, and you want somebody to read you the plot of Trustfall. There are 100 channels doing that tonight. What I want to do is show you what this episode was actually doing while it was happening to you, because this one peaked upward for me in a serious way, and the reason it peaked was almost nothing to do with the stuff everybody's going to be screaming about in the thumbnails, okay? It has everything to do with how the show treats you. In detective fiction, there's a principle called fair play. Now, the idea is simple and it's old. A fair mystery shows you everything. Every clue the detective gets, you get. The groundwork gets laid in plain sight so that when the answer comes, you realize you could have gotten there yourself. Okay, Sherlock Holmes runs on it. House ran on it for 8 seasons. Same rule applied ultimately to medicine. The mystery isn't fair because it's easy. It's fair because nothing was hidden. Now, episode 2 of Lanterns convinced me this show is playing fair. And here's the thing about a fair mystery. If the show really is putting every clue on the table, then we're allowed to read the table. That's what this video is, okay? I watched this episode like a fan and I loved it, and we'll get to that. But then I watched it like a detective, and I have to tell you what I found, because the clues on the table, yeah, they're not pointing at who killed Hal Jordan. They're pointing at what John Stewart is. First, the fan watch, because I think the episode was generous in a way that genuinely surprised me. We got Hal in the suit. Okay, the lantern itself comes out of storage, and he speaks the oath over it while the ring charges, which is a thing I would have bet money this show was saving for the finale, okay? There's an honest-to-goodness prison planet, and sitting in a cell on it is Sinestro in the flesh, because as this episode tells us, he tried to take the core by force, killed a guardian doing it, and Hal is the man who stopped him. That's a comic book television show refusing to apologize for being a comic book television show. And I have to take my little victory lap here, because this week I said out loud that I did not expect the show to go anywhere near Mogo. So what does episode 2 do? Hal's power battery is sitting in a pocket dimension, because apparently DC has pocket dimensions to spare now. Lex Luthor got one, Peacemaker's got one, now Hal's got one. Okay, we've got pocket dimensions a go-go. And the password that opens it...
Greetings, Hal Jordan. To access the vault, please confirm identity.
Ready.
Mogo doesn't socialize.
That's not a random line. That is the title of Green Lantern's story from 1985, Green Lantern 188, Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. The story that introduced Mogo, the living planet, who's also, by the way, a Green Lantern. This show reached 41 years back into the weirdest corner of mythology and used it as a password. A show that's ashamed of its comic book does not do that. The Noise, of course, has an answer for all of this. All week, it's been the same line. It's grounded because they're cheap. It's holding back because it's embarrassed. It's weak. But the record already answered back, okay? The Wrap reported the premiere ultimately itself pulled 9.3 million viewers in 3 days, which makes DC Studios' biggest series launch on the platform ahead of what The Penguin did. Okay, audiences have it sitting at an 89 on Rotten Tomatoes, okay, right next to the 95 from critics, which is the best reception any DC Studio show has gotten from the people actually watching it. The idea that this show is choosing this lane out of poverty sounds foolish to me, all right? The restraint is a style. The audience is showing up for it, and the record is public. Done. Let's move on. Even the flying worked for me. When Hal gets up in the air, even briefly this episode, it felt real. Okay, I'm sure the man was on wires and all, but I don't care. It worked. And everything around it, the town, the lights, the faces, kept feeling like a place instead of a set. So episode 2 pays you, it sets the same table it set last week and serves you a meal at it. Generosity doing a second job. Generosity buys you trust. Okay, the trust drops your guard, and a dropped guard is how the real clues walk right past you while you're cheering at the suit. That's the other hand. So let's watch it. Fair play means the clues are face up. So let me just deal them back to you one at a time, exactly as the episode ultimately showed them, because none of this is me freezing frame, hidden props. The camera looks directly at every one of these things. Hal's ring runs out of charge in the first 10 minutes. It's not a gag. That's the engine of the whole episode. It's why John gets sent to Coast City alone. It's why Hal spends the hour as a detective instead of a superhero. And it's why when Hal finally wanted to walk up to that ranch, my producer brain went, man, just put the suit on and run the place. He can't. And the episode tells you why he can't. John comes back with a clock attached. 48 hours to find the Manhunter, or the people holding the leash blow up half of Nebraska. Now, last week, I told you the show treats the ring like a service weapon, okay? This week, the show handed you the paperwork. Restraint isn't an aesthetic anymore. It's a hostage situation. Clue. Episode 1 already told us 14 alien species can pass for human, even under testing. Episode 2 escalates it. A Manhunter doesn't just pass, it embeds. It can live inside a community as one of its people for years. The show now has a monster whose entire nature is being somebody you already trust. Clue, the hospital. Hal notices on camera that the place is wrong. Sign-out sheets sitting blank, equipment nobody's used, a town where people apparently don't get sick the way people get sick. All right, the episode doesn't really explain it. It just makes sure you saw it. Clue, the football field. There is alien detection tech wired into the town's own infrastructure. Somebody in Rushville has been screening for things that aren't human, quietly, for who knows how long. And beyond all of it, okay, the clue the whole season stands on. The body in 2026 is missing the ring. The one object this universe that knows its bearer. One at a time, those are Easter eggs. Now together, dealt on in one table, that's a hand. This town is constructed. Something has been living inside the construction long enough to build plumbing around itself, and the show told you all of it to your face. But a table full of clues still needs a hunter sitting at it, and the episode delivered one. The scene everybody's going to be theorizing about all week. The abduction. John gets taken by an alien named Antaan. And what Antaan does to him is one of the darkest things I've seen a superhero show do this year. He doesn't threaten John. He downloads a genocide into his head.
This is what it looks like when a Manhunter destroys your people.
He makes John live what a Manhunter did to his people. A machine that spent years passing as one of them and then quietly engineered their end. Then he gives John the job. Find it, kill it, 48 hours. Now, the Manhunters go back a long way in the comics, okay? The piece that matters tonight is from, I would say, Justice League of America 140 back in 1977, before the Guardians ever built the Green Lantern Corps. They built machines to police the universe, okay? And the machines, they went wrong. That's the nod, because the story I actually want is a different one. The story I want is Green Lantern number 25, Jeff Johns, the closing chapter of the Sinestro Corps War, which is a fun coincidence given who just showed up in this episode. Now that's where we learn what the Manhunters' malfunction actually cost. They didn't just go wrong in the abstract, okay? They eliminated an entire space sector. Sector 666, billions of lives, and 5 survivors. And one of those survivors dedicates everything he has left to vengeance against the machines and against the little blue immortals who built them. And if you know where this story goes, you know the word crucifixion is involved, and you know he ends up wearing a very different color than anybody else. And it is, and I mean this in the best way, a completely insane story. So ask the question this episode is really asking. A machine that exterminates worlds that no one escapes, that can wear any face it wants. Who hunts a thing like that? who hunts the Manhunters? The comics answered that question with one name, and everybody watching tonight said it at the same time. A survivor whose world was murdered by a manhunter, hunting the last one. That's Atrocitus. The theory's everywhere already, and here's the thing. This is one of those rare weeks where the crowd is right. And I can show you the machinery underneath the vibe. So I'm putting it on the record as a call because that's what we do here. The massacre Antaan poured into John's head is this show's version of Sector 666 massacre. Okay, Antaan is not just shaped like Atrocitus. I'm calling Antaan is Atrocitus. And the season is holding that name back the same way it held back the suit and the oath until the reveal earns it. When it lands, this quiet Nebraska detective show will have quietly introduced the founder of one of the most terrifying corners of the entire mythology, and it will have done it in a farmhouse basement with a sad man and a machine that downloads grief. And the show has already told you it works this way. The showrunner Chris Mundy told The Wrap they tried to make everything relatable without undermining that ultimately what came before. That a creature destroying your whole world and you hunting for it. Okay, vengeance is, in his word, a real emotion. That's a man telling you he kept the machinery of the comics and rewired the feelings to run through people. Now, the machinery of the comic says this exact grief in this exact hunter has a name and a destiny. Now, I got a lot more on the history here. The full Manhunters rap sheet going back to the 70s and where the Atrocitus story actually ends up. And I go a good bit deeper on all of it in this week's sidebar video for members. If that's your thing, I hope you join me over there. So that's my call on Antaan, and episode 3 gets the first shot at making me look ridiculous. Fine. Okay, no problem. Predictions earn their place by surviving the next episode. But the Manhunter hunt is only half of what Sinestro's scene did. The other half is the reason this video exists. Let's talk about Hal for a second first, because the episode quietly told us who he is now. John walks through Hal's house this week, and it's a mansion, okay? A gift from somebody grateful, and it's gorgeous, and it's completely empty. The producer said it straight out in the after show. The house is a monument to who Hal is. Beautiful, hollow, and quiet. This is a man 40 years into being the most important person in every room, and the sum of it is a big empty building with a carnivorous plant named Earl. Everything Hal spent, he spent outward. What's left is running out, and he knows it. And the show keeps letting us see that he knows it. John isn't just his replacement. John is the answer to the question Hal can't ask, which is what any of it was for. Which is exactly why the bird scene is the scene of the episode. On Friday, I put 5 calls on the record, okay, in the files video. Call 2 said the season would give John a signature construct that announces the architect underneath the Marine, something structured, layered, protective, built from the inside out, and that Hal's laughter would give way to recognition. So watch what episode 2 does. John, trying to fly, builds a bird, not a fist, not a weapon, a small, living thing. And it persists. It stays alive while he's not even wearing the wing. And Hal, the 40-year veteran, stops and marvels, and he calls it advanced. So, am I claiming the win? No, a bird is not architecture, and I said the construct would reveal the builder, layered and structural, and that hasn't happened yet. But the recognition beat I called? Yeah, it happened tonight. The laughter from the cliff became Hal staring at something his own imagination has never done. Now, that's not a win, all right? It's really close to one, and the rest of the call is going to stay on the table. All right, so here's what I didn't call. The show took the exact ability I predicted would be John's crowning moment and used it to plant its darkest seed. Follow the sequence, okay? The episode establishes that sustaining a construct without the ring is beyond anything Hal can do. It gives the ability to the rookie, okay? Hal says it means something, says it's deep. And John, this man whose whole life has been aimed at this ring, looks at the proof of his own gift and says, it's just a bird, and kills it.
What's with that bird, anyway?
What are you talking about?
The bird. I mean, you brought to life with your subconscious. It must mean something pretty deep.
It's just a bird.
He turns his own creation to dust rather than let it mean something. Then Antaan doesn't give the 48-hour kill order to the 40-year veteran. He gives it to John. And then the last scene, Hal puts on the suit. flies to an alien prison and asks Sinestro about Manhunters. And Sinestro, the man who knew the core well enough to nearly take it, doesn't answer the question. He says that if a Manhunter still existed, it would only be the second biggest threat Hal's facing. And then he asks Hal to tell him about John Stewart.
Tell me what you know about Manhunters.
If one still existed, they'd be the second greatest threat you're currently facing. So why don't you tell me about John Stewart?
That's the last card of the episode. Bottom line. And the show dealt it face up, like all the others. For 2 weeks, all right, Lanterns has been a story about succession. The old Lantern, the chosen replacement, the mentorship, who inherits the light. Episode 2 just refiled John Stewart from successor to suspect. And it did it so quietly behind the suit and the oath and Sinestro that almost nobody's talking about it. The anomaly, the clues keep circling isn't the hospital or the football field. He's standing next to Hal and the show flagged him, marveled at him, and had a devil point a finger at him all in 1 hour. And I know what you're doing right now because I did it too. You're going, come on, it's John Stewart. He's the most trustworthy man in DC, right? Yeah, and this episode's just spent an hour showing us a monster whose entire nature is being somebody you already trust. The mystery was never just who killed Hal Jordan. The show's asking a colder question. It's asking what John Stewart is. Now, fair play cuts both ways. If I'm going to tell you the show plays fair, then my reading has to play fair too. So here's exactly what would break it. Now, next week looks like it's John's origin episode. The childhood, the father, the training, the why. If that hour explains John's gift innocently, if the anomaly turns out to be discipline or lineage or something the core understands, then the suspect file gets a lot thinner, and I'll say so on camera the following Monday. Now, second, the clues might resolve onto the town instead of the man. Everything wrong in Rushville, the hospital, the detectors, the years of quiet construction could assemble into the Manhunter's nest and nothing more, with John exactly what he appears to be. Now, if that's the answer, the method of this video still stands. The show still played fair, and I still lose the suspect. That's fine. That's what a real call costs. Third, my one production hold, and I want to be honest about it because this episode earned honesty. When the show is in Rushville, it's a noir. Nighttime, patience, dread, that true detective grammar I praised last week, okay? Now, when John is running around Coast City in broad daylight for a stretch where it turns into something else, it shares DNA with Peacemaker, or maybe some of Marvel's daylight stuff, and it lost a hair of the cinematic quality that this show had held on to for every previous minute. Now, those sequences also delivered exactly what people have been begging for. So I'm not sure whether I watched an identity wobble or a deliberate design, a show giving its two worlds two different looks. Now I'm going to watch this episode again with that question in front of me, and I'll report back most likely on Friday. And one more thing, since some of you have been throwing Watchmen at this show like it's an insult, okay? The structure Lanterns is running, the dead legend, the timelines, the past being interrogated by the present, that is the Watchmen grammar, and it's the Strange Adventures grammar. And those are the storytellers this show hired. You're using their fingerprints as the accusation, and it's the recipe. And it's a strength. Maybe time proves me wrong on that one. I understand the criticism. I don't share it. So there you go. Now you know. If knowing's half the battle, you're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. What's an all index for? Lanterns, episode 2. Trustfall is exciting, it's confident, and it's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. It set the same table as last week and served the meal. The suit, the oath, the lantern, a prison planet, Sinestro, while keeping the lore so understandable, so digestible, that a viewer who's never opened a comic can walk in and a lorehead can find more reference used as a password. It plays fair with its mystery. It deepened both of its leads, and its one tonal wobble is a question mark, not a wound. Lanterns episode 2 is going to earn a 9 out of 10 on the index for me.
Brightest day and blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light.
For a full hour, Lanterns taught you to love John Stewart. Then it spent one sentence teaching you to fear him. And that sentence, that's the season. All right, your turn. And this week, I want you working the case with me. The clues are face up, all right? All 7 of them. The dead ring, the 14 species, the hospital, the football field, the missing ring, the bird, the Sinestro's little question. Tell me in the comments what the table says. Is John the anomaly? Is it the town? And am I right about who Antaan really is? And if you caught a clue I didn't deal tonight, bring it, because I will absolutely put the best catch on screen in the next files. One more thing before you go. All night I've been dealing you cards, 7 of them, okay? Face up, but somewhere in the last few minutes, an 8th card showed up. It's in your head right now, a playing card. You didn't pick it, you just walked in while you were watching the wrong hand. Exactly like I told you it would. The 7 of Hearts. If I just got you, go look at the pinned comment, okay? It was posted before the video went live. And then maybe watch this one again because I showed you everything. If you're riding the rest of this season with me, subscribe and turn the notifications on because we're doing this every single week. And episode 3 is about to put my calls on trial. All right, guys, until Friday, actually, never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all. Bye, guys.